What if I told you that the voice ruining your life isn't coming from other people, but from inside your own head? That the real enemy isn't your past, your struggles, or the ones who didn't believe in you. It's the thoughts you allow to stay in your mind and grow roots. You feel tired, lost, and unmotivated. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why? Why do you keep doubting your abilities, even when deep down you know you can do more? Why do your own thoughts drag you down instead of helping you rise? This isn't just about thinking too much. It's a battle for how you see the world, and most people lose that fight because they don't even know it's happening. The truth is, negative thinking doesn't only make you sad or moody. It eats away at your purpose, weakens your focus, and freezes your drive to act. But what if there were old, powerful principles, sharp, time-tested ideas born from Stoic wisdom that could quiet that noise in your head and rebuild your mind into something strong and steady? Stay here, because today we're not hiding behind nice words or easy comfort. We're facing the truth head-on, and once you understand it, you won't be able to ignore it again. If you're ready to stop letting fear and doubt tell your story, and instead start creating a life built on clarity, courage, and control over yourself, then subscribe now for the version of you that's waiting to wake up. Law 1. Turn pain into power. No one goes through life without getting hurt. That's not a warning. It's just how life works. You'll face disappointment. People will turn you down. You'll make mistakes. And sometimes unfair things will happen that leave you hurting. But the real question isn't if pain will come. It's what will you do with it? Most people try to run away from their pain. They distract themselves, they push it down, they pretend it's gone. But pain that's ignored doesn't disappear. It just hides and comes back in other ways. It shows up in how you treat yourself, in how you talk to others, in the choices you make every day. You start living from your wounds instead of your wisdom. That's where the Stoic way turns things around. Instead of escaping pain, Stoicism teaches you to face it, study it, and use it. Pain isn't meant to trap you, it's meant to teach you. The Stoics never wished for a perfect life. They didn't ask the world to protect them from hardship. They trained to handle it. They trained to grow from it. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire during war and sickness, once said, "The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just something nice to read. It's a guide for living. It means that pain, loss, and setbacks aren't interruptions on your path. They are the path. They're how you get stronger, sharper, and wiser, but only if you stop treating pain like a curse and start treating it like a teacher. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That means you can't wake up to who you truly are without going through discomfort. Think about it. When do you grow the most? When life is easy and smooth, or when something breaks and you have to look inside yourself to rebuild? The breakup that crushed your heart, the job you lost, the failure that left you ashamed. Those moments hurt deeply, yes, but they also hold power. They show you what's weak and give you the chance to rebuild something stronger, something real. But here's the thing. Pain doesn't automatically make you stronger. You have to choose to use it. Pain can shape you or it can shatter you. It can make you wiser or it can make you bitter. The difference comes from the story you tell yourself about it. Most people go through pain asking, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic asks, "How can I use this?" That single question changes everything. Imagine you fail at something important. You lose money. You get embarrassed. You disappoint people. You could hide in shame and let that moment define you. Or you could study it. Ask yourself, what did this reveal about me? Where was I not ready? Where was I too confident? What habits do I need to change? When you do that, failure stops being your enemy. It becomes information, a map showing you how to grow next time. It turns into fuel. It turns into your advantage. Seneca once said, "Hard times strengthen the mind, just as work strengthens the body." And he meant it completely. Pain, when faced the right way, becomes the weight that trains your inner strength. Rejection. That's another kind of power. When you stop taking it as a personal attack, you realize it simply means you didn't match someone else's vision. Perfect. Now you have the freedom to build your own. Someone leaves your life. Good. You've just been given clarity, and clarity is one of the most powerful tools you can ever have. Every no you hear helps you understand your yes. Every door that closes points you closer to the right one. But to use pain this way, you need control, emotional control. You need the strength to sit with pain long enough to learn from it without letting it crush you. That's why the Stoics practiced reflection, journaling, silence, stillness. When something hurts, don't rush to react. Stop, observe, write it down, break it apart. Ask yourself, what inside me did this touch? What belief did it challenge? What strength did it reveal that I didn't know was there? This isn't about hiding pain, it's about transforming it, turning it into food for your mind. Now imagine what happens when you do this again and again. When your first reaction to failure isn't panic or self-pity, but curiosity and focus, you lose, and instead of collapsing, you lean forward. Someone criticizes you, and instead of feeling attacked, you take it as guidance. You fall down, and instead of saying, "Why me?" you say, "Watch me." That's what real strength looks like. Calm, steady, unstoppable. The Stoics weren't perfect. They felt pain just like anyone else. But what made them stand out was that they refused to waste their pain. They treated life like a forge. Every challenge was fire that shaped them. Every scar taught them something. Every bruise was proof that they were still here, still fighting. That kind of mindset isn't just old wisdom. It's a living weapon you can use right now. So whatever pain you're holding today, don't hide from it, and don't try to erase it. Study it, shape it, use it. Ask yourself, how can this make me wiser? How can this make me stronger? How can this become my strength instead of my excuse? Because here's the truth. Real power doesn't come from escaping storms. It comes from becoming one. You become the force that grows when things get hard, that learns from every failure, that sharpens in the dark. You stop waiting for life to be easier. You get tougher. You stop hoping the world gives you peace. You build it yourself, piece by piece, through every struggle you've survived. Law 2. Build self-confidence. Keep small promises daily. Self-confidence isn't belief, it's evidence. You don't convince yourself that you can trust yourself by repeating positive phrases in the mirror, but by accumulate evidence that you do what you say. The mind doesn't believe in intentions, it believes in history. And every broken promise, no matter how small, weakens that invisible bond between you and your own word. Most people feel lost not because of a lack of ability, but because of a lack of self-credibility. They plan, dream, swear they'll change, and they don't. And every time this happens, the mind records, I can't take myself seriously. This is the silent collapse of inner strength when you stop trusting your own command. The Stoics understood that the greatest power a human being can have is the coherence between what you think, say, and do. Marcus Aurelius wrote every morning as if he were giving an account of his own character. Epictetus said that true freedom arises when man becomes master of himself. And this begins with the simplest act, doing what you've been told. Not for the world, but for yourself. Small promises are not trivial. They are the building blocks of integrity. When you say you're going to wake up early and you do it, you're practicing discipline. When you promise not to react impulsively and take a breath before responding, you are practicing emotional control. When you decide to finish what you started, even without motivation, you are strengthening your inner confidence. These tiny gestures build the kind of respect no one can give or take away, self-respect. And that's the foundation of serenity. No longer need to doubt one's own character. But the opposite is also true. Every time you betray yourself in small ways, your mind learns that your word carries no weight. You say, I'll start tomorrow, and you don't. You say, this time it will be different, and you repeat the pattern. Little by little, you create the habit of lying to yourself, and this is the worst form of corruption. No external enemy is as dangerous as daily self-deception. Seneca warned, nothing is more shameful than to say one thing and think another. The wise man avoids this internal rift, not because he fears judgment, but because he knows that every slip against one's own word costs mental energy. The mind doesn't trust someone who promises and doesn't deliver, not even when that someone is you. So, rebuild your confidence like someone building a house, slowly, steadily. Start with promises too small to fail, waking up on time, reading 2 pages a day, being silent before deciding, and fulfilling them with almost military precision. Not for the result, but for the training of consistency. Each day you complete one, you send your mind the message, I do what I say. Do this for a week, and you'll feel the difference. For a month, and you'll see clarity. For a year, and nothing will shake your center again. 3 Stoic principles underpin this practice. 1. Sincerity with the moment. Stop making grandiose promises to prove something to yourself. Promise only what you can actually deliver, and then deliver without drama. 2. Night review. Before bed, review the day like a benevolent judge. What did I do well? Where did I fail? What can I fix tomorrow? No guilt, just conscience. 3. Will over emotion. Do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. The action comes first, the feeling comes later. True self-confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to show off because it knows what it did when no one was looking. And that's exactly where power comes from, in the invisible, in everyday life, in the fulfillment of small things. Life doesn't crumble because of great tragedies, but because of daily negligence. Likewise, it rebuilds itself through continuous micro-victories. Every time you fulfill a small promise, you don't just accomplish a task, you rewrite your self-image. From someone who fails to someone who delivers, from someone who doubts to someone who leads. Epictetus said, "No man is free unless he is master of himself." Dominion over oneself is not achieved with speeches, it is achieved with non-negotiable shares. And in the end, it's simple. You only trust those who deliver on their promises. Then become that person. Not to impress the world, but so that when you look in the mirror can say without hesitation, I believe in myself. Law 3. Attack the root, not the symptom. Most people live with a loud mind and don't even notice it. Their heads are filled with tiny fires, nervous thoughts, endless worries, sudden bursts of doubt, and they spend every day trying to put them out one at a time. But here's the problem. No matter how many times they do, the flames always come back. Why? Because they're treating the surface, not the source. They're busy calming the noise instead of asking where the noise comes from. Stoicism teaches that the mind isn't just chaos, it's a pattern. And if you never take time to study that pattern, you'll keep facing the same struggles again and again. Real self-control doesn't start with reacting. It starts with examining. It means being brave enough to look beneath the thought, beneath the fear, beneath the story you keep repeating to yourself. Imagine your mind keeps whispering, you're falling behind. Most people will distract themselves, scrolling through their phone, eating something, or throwing themselves into random tasks. But a Stoic takes a deep breath and looks closer. Am I really behind? Or am I comparing myself to someone who isn't even living my life? Maybe I'm measuring my worth by someone else's clock. These aren't just thoughts. They're roots. And if you don't pull them up, they'll keep growing stronger. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters." But your response isn't just emotional. It's also built from habits. And habits grow from roots. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate." That hits hard because most of our pain doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from the hidden things we never face inside ourselves. That fear of being judged, that's not just your personality. It's a root. Maybe it started long ago, the moment you felt that being yourself wasn't enough. And ever since, that root has shaped everything. What you say, how you act, what you hide, even what you wear. A Stoic doesn't ignore these things or cover them up with fake positivity. They face them, not because they're fearless, but because they know fear grows stronger in silence. Every negative thought is like a signal asking for your attention, not to make you panic, but to make you look deeper. Once you understand where a thought comes from, you can question it, challenge it, and change the habits that keep it alive. Think about it. If you came home and saw water on the floor, would you just mop it up every day? Or would you find the leak and fix it? That's what this principle is about. Finding the leak, facing what you've been avoiding. Here's the beautiful truth. When you stop treating symptoms and start pulling out the roots, everything shifts. Your anxiety no longer controls you. Your doubt doesn't freeze you. Your sadness doesn't drag you into shame. Why? Because you've found the source. And once you see the root, it loses its strength. Then you get to choose what to do with it. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He didn't mean pain isn't real. He meant that most of our suffering comes from the endless loop we create by avoiding what's really going on. When you cut the root, you break that loop. Let's make this real. The next time you feel like everything's too much, don't say, "I can't do this." Instead, ask, "What exactly am I afraid of?" Get clear. Get specific. Because once you name the fear, you stop it from ruling you. Are you scared that you might let someone down? That you could fail where others can see it? That you'll waste your time trying? Write those fears down, then go a little deeper. To ask yourself, why would that outcome hurt me so much? What idea do I secretly hold about myself that makes this fear feel so heavy? That's where the root hides. And once you see it clearly, you can ask, does this belief still belong here? Or maybe it's time to release it and move on. Facing the truth isn't easy. Actually, it almost never is. But remember, discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. That uneasy feeling that shows up when you start looking deeper, that's the place where real freedom begins. This isn't only about solving problems, it's about taking your power back. The power to respond instead of instantly reacting. The power to stay clear when your thoughts get cloudy. The power to keep moving even when your mind wants to escape. You don't need more distractions or pretty words on posters. You need accuracy, the courage to look your fear straight in the eyes and say, "I see you, I know where you came from, but you don't control me anymore." That is what Stoicism is, real self-leadership. And when you start living that way, when you pull out the root instead of trimming the leaves, you stop being ruled by your thoughts. You become the one who leads them. Law 4. Build a mind that's a fortress, not a doorway. Most people don't see how open their minds really are. They wake up and grab their phones before even thinking. They scroll through posts, react to things, and soak in everything they see. Opinions, complaints, scary headlines, reminders of what they still haven't done. All of it floods in. Without even realizing, they let every outside voice walk into their thoughts and move things around inside. After a few hours, they start wondering why they feel tired, nervous, or lost. But here's the truth. Your mind isn't supposed to be a hallway with doors wide open. It's meant to be a strong fortress. The Stoics taught that what you let into your mind shapes how you live your life. And if you don't guard those doors, someone else will take control for you. Think about it for a second. If you owned a castle, would you let strangers just wander in? Would you allow them to shout insults, break your windows, and leave a mess behind? Of course not. But that's what most of us do with our thoughts. Someone says one careless thing, and we carry it around all day. One bad moment happens, and we start imagining the worst possible endings. We don't stop to question these thoughts. We just believe them. We give them space inside our minds as if they belong there. That's why the idea of a fortress mind matters. The world is noisy, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, but it's always trying to shape how you think. Ads, social media, other people's opinions, even your own doubts are all trying to get in. And if your mental walls are weak, they will. But when you turn your mind into a fortress, you start filtering. You stop accepting every negative idea just because it shows up. You don't let every loud opinion become your truth. You stop reacting to everything that happens and start choosing your responses carefully. That's where real strength begins. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That awakening begins when you realize you don't have to believe every thought that pops up. You have the right to question it. You have the power to decide if it helps you or harms you. You get to choose your response instead of reacting blindly. But that kind of control only comes when you build strong walls, not to shut the world out, but to protect your peace, your focus, and your calm. Now let's talk about discipline, because a fortress mind doesn't build itself. It takes practice. Every time you notice yourself sinking into doubt, and you stop, breathe, and refocus, that's one brick. Every time you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's and let it go, that's another brick. Every time you ignore pointless drama or refuse to feed a fear that isn't real, that's another one. It's not about being cold or emotionless. It's about building structure. Seneca said, "No one can have everything they want, but everyone can stop wanting what they don't have." That's what a fortress mindset is, choosing calm instead of chaos, and choosing control inside yourself instead of being ruled by what happens outside. Here's what most people don't see. Not every thought that passes through your head belongs to you. Some come from things you heard as a kid. Some come from what other people believe. Some are just random noise from the world around you. And if you don't take time to slow down and look at them closely, they'll end up steering your whole life. You'll think you're choosing for yourself, but really you're just following invisible scripts someone else wrote. That's why the Stoics practiced writing in journals, thinking deeply and sitting in silence, to make their inner walls stronger, to tell the difference between what was truly their own and what was just borrowed from others. So how do you start building your fortress? First, guard the gate. When a thought shows up, don't just let it in. Ask yourself, is this useful? Is it true? Does it belong to me? If the answer is no, if it's a lie, a distraction, or a weight you don't need, shut the gate. Then be careful about the voices you allow near your mind. Not everyone deserves access to your inner space. Choose your influences like you'd choose a guard for your home, wisely, thoughtfully, and with care. Most importantly, build daily habits that make your mind strong. Sit in quiet, read something that teaches you, write about what you feel, take cold showers, reflect before you react. These aren't just trends, they're the building blocks. Every time you practice one, you add another brick to your fortress. The more you stack, the stronger your mind becomes. Let's be real, the world isn't going to calm down for you. It won't suddenly get easier, kinder, or gentler. If anything, the noise will grow louder, more opinions, more pressure, more things trying to grab your attention. So the real question isn't, will life test me? But, will I be ready when it does? Having a fortress mind doesn't mean nothing ever hurts you. It means when something does slip through, you don't crumble. You stop, you think, you answer with strength instead of reacting from emotion. And here's the best part, people will notice. Not because you show off, but because you stand steady. You'll be the person who stays calm when things fall apart, who stays quiet when others gossip, who listens instead of shouting, who doesn't need to prove their worth, because your strength speaks without words. That kind of calm, that inner power, doesn't appear in a single day. It's built slowly, one choice at a time, one thought at a time, one wall at a time, until your mind becomes a place nothing false can shake. And if you're enjoying the content, consider becoming a member of the channel. In addition to helping the channel, you also get exclusive content. Click on the link in the description and become a member right now. Back to the content. Law 5. Systems beat moods. Discipline by design. Most people live at the mercy of their moods. They act only when they feel inspired, motivated, or in the right headspace. But Stoicism, and every philosophy of mastery, teaches the opposite. If you depend on motivation, you're already weak, because moods fluctuate. Systems don't. The disciplined person doesn't rely on emotion to act. They rely on structure. You don't rise to the level of your feelings, you fall to the level of your systems. Every great mind in history, from Marcus Aurelius to modern thinkers like James Clear, understood this principle intuitively. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is creating conditions that make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. That's why the Stoics valued rituals over impulses. A ritual transforms virtue into automation. It removes choice from what should be non-negotiable. Epictetus woke at dawn to reflect on control. Marcus Aurelius wrote his thoughts every morning before ruling an empire. Seneca reviewed his conscience every night before sleep. These were not random habits. They were anchors, systems designed to keep the mind aligned when emotions shifted like tides. Because moods are unpredictable, their weather and systems are architecture. You cannot stop the storm, but you can build a roof. And that's the essence of discipline by design, creating an environment that makes success the path of least resistance. Most people fail not from lack of willpower, but from relying on it too much. Willpower is a muscle. It fatigues. The wise use it only to install systems that reduce future decisions. For example, if you want to read daily, place the book on your pillow each morning, so your bed becomes your reminder. If you want to train, prepare the clothes the night before so there's no friction. If you want to focus, block notifications, clear your desk, define fixed hours. Every act of preparation is an act of freedom later. It's not control for control's sake. It's intelligent design for the mind. The Stoics believed that order in the outer world creates order in the inner one. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is ours except time, and yet we act as if we had an abundance of it." Systems are how you honor time, by making each hour accountable to purpose. Ask yourself, how many of your goals depend on how you feel instead of what you've structured? You don't need another surge of inspiration. You need less friction. Simplify the steps until there's no room for excuses, because when the path is clear, the will awakens naturally. Think of it like this. Emotion is the spark, but structure is the circuit. Without the circuit, the spark burns out. That's why the Stoic doesn't wait for energy. He creates momentum, one brick at a time, one habit at a time. And soon discipline stops being effort. It becomes identity. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That's the real measure of discipline. The person who acts regardless of feeling becomes unstoppable because they no longer waste energy negotiating with themselves. They've built a system that carries them forward even on bad days. When you live this way, you stop asking, "How do I stay motivated?" and start asking, "How do I make discipline inevitable?" Remove temptation instead of fighting it. Automate virtue instead of debating it. Design your environment so it does half the work for you. That's the true Stoic strategy, architecture of the self, a deliberate blueprint that turns willpower into habit and habit into freedom. So tomorrow, don't aim for perfection. Aim for repeatability. Don't chase emotional highs. Build daily anchors. Don't trust the weather of your mood. Trust the walls you've built to stand firm when the storm comes, because one day, motivation will vanish. But your system, your structure, will remain. And that's when you'll finally understand the Stoic truth. Freedom isn't found in feeling good. It's found in doing right, consistently, by design, not by mood. Law 6. Detach from what you can't command. It always begins with good intentions. You care about something or someone, and of course you want things to turn out well. You want to do great, to be noticed, to feel loved, to feel safe. At first that seems completely fine, but slowly that care starts to shift into something heavier. Attachment. Suddenly you're not just trying to do a good job anymore. You start believing your worth depends on whether your boss praises you. You're not just enjoying time with someone you love. You start thinking you need them to feel complete. You're not just using social media for fun. Now the likes and comments decide if your day was good or bad. And that's where trouble begins. Not because caring is bad, but because attachment mixes up what belongs to you with what never really did. Stoic philosophy makes this very clear. The only things you truly own are your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and your responses. Everything else, results, other people's opinions, rewards, relationships, those are things you can't fully control. Epictetus said it best. Some things depend on us, and some things don't. And it's usually the things that don't that cause us the most pain, not because they directly hurt us, but because we hold on so tightly to them, believing they define who we are. Think of it this way. you're holding a rope. On the other end is someone or something you care about deeply. But that thing begins to sink. You feel the pull, the strain in your hands. You could let go, but you don't. You tell yourself you must hold on, that letting go would mean failing. So you grip even tighter. Your hands start to burn, your arms grow tired, and before long, without noticing, you're being pulled under too. That's what emotional attachment does. It looks like love, but it becomes a trap. It feels like strength, but it turns into chains. It promises closeness, but it ends up giving pain. Carl Jung once said, "Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing." So when you keep holding on to something that's clearly hurting you, that's exactly what's happening. You're choosing pain. You're choosing weakness. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Not to stop caring, but to see things clearly. Not to turn cold, but to stay in control. Detachment isn't about shutting down or being heartless. It's about keeping your peace separate from what you can't control. It's saying, I'll give my best, I'll show up fully, but I won't let my happiness depend on things outside of me. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. True detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop needing. You can love someone deeply without tying your value to whether they stay or go. You can give your all to a project without letting failure destroy your confidence. You can chase your dreams with all your energy and still accept whatever happens with calm and grace. That's what the Stoics practiced. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, faced sickness, betrayal, and war, yet he still reminded himself, you must build your life piece by piece, action by action. That's what real strength looks like. Not control over the world, but control over yourself. He didn't sit around waiting for luck to help him. He moved forward, without chasing praise and without fearing judgment. In today's world, that kind of calm separation feels almost strange. We're told to work harder, care more, and keep pushing no matter what. People clap for how much effort we give, but hardly anyone asks what it's doing to our health or peace of mind. That's why so many end up exhausted. They're holding too tightly to things they can't control. Results, approval, loyalty, attention. They live on edge, trying to force control over things that were never truly theirs. And the harder they push, the faster it all slips away. But when you begin to let go, something shifts. You start to feel light again, steady, awake. You stop worrying about what could happen and return to what is happening. You stop chasing people and start finding calm. Most of our stress comes from made-up futures, from imagining problems that haven't even arrived, from hoping others will change when they probably won't. And still, we hold on. But when you learn to detach, you stop wasting energy on what doesn't answer your effort. You begin putting that energy where it truly matters, into your breathing, your choices, your focus, your attitude. So, how do you actually practice this? Start small. When something doesn't turn out how you hoped, instead of spinning out, ask yourself, was this ever mine to control? If not, let it go. When someone lets you down, don't attack or blame. Remind yourself, their choices are theirs. My reaction belongs to me. When you feel worry about the future, pull yourself back to the only moment that's real, right now. Ask, what can I do in this moment that matches my values? That's always enough. Detachment isn't something you decide once and forget. It's something you work on daily. Some days letting go will be easy. Other days it'll feel like you're peeling away part of yourself. But each time you practice, your balance grows stronger. Eventually, you won't have to try to detach. You'll simply stop clinging in the first place. You'll love without fear, give without expecting anything back, and act without needing applause. That's when your mind finally feels free. And here's the greatest shift of all. Once you stop grabbing at things you can't control, you begin mastering what you can. Your vision clears, your strength returns, your discipline deepens. You no longer chase peace, you create it inside yourself. That's what Stoicism has always been about. Not about being cold, but about being in control. Not about giving up, but about growing wise. It's the kind of freedom that no person, no failure, and no loss can ever take from you. But there is something important to understand. If you have been trying for a long time to get out of your comfort zone and learn more, but you still haven't managed to do so, there may be something you are not aware of. I know what it could be. It is anxiety. Anxiety is like a snake that comes silently and affects you without you realizing it. It makes you feel bad for days, months, and even years. Living like this is like being sick all the time. But I know a solution. The Stoic philosophers, together with modern psychology, have a way to help you get rid of this. I myself managed to cure myself of this anxiety. I made a video explaining how you can get rid of this evil, and it is in the first comment. Click on the link in the first comment and start curing yourself of this feeling of anxiety. Law 7. Let silence be your superpower. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay quiet. Not because you're scared, not because you don't know what to say, but because you've learned the difference between expressing yourself and exposing yourself. We live in a world where everyone feels like they have to share their opinions on everything, to post them, to argue, to complain. But here's the truth most people ignore. The more you talk about your weakness, the more you make it part of who you are. When you say things like, "I'm just so nervous," or "I'm not good enough," it might feel like a relief for a moment, but really, you're carving those words deeper into your mind. The Stoics knew this long before oversharing became popular. They didn't hide their feelings, they learned to hold them with strength. They didn't pretend to be tough, they practiced silence as a way to stay powerful. Negative thoughts grow louder when you feed them with sound. The more you speak them, the more they echo, and the more they echo, the more you start to believe them. Have you ever noticed how saying something out loud can suddenly make it feel heavier, more dramatic, more real? That's because once you say it, you're not just thinking it, you're acting it out. You give it a body, a sound, a story, and your brain listens closely. Marcus Aurelius once said that what you think about shapes the quality of your mind. Now imagine adding your voice to those thoughts. It multiplies their power. That's why the Stoics chose their words carefully. They understood something most of us have forgotten. Your words build your world. Carl Jung said something similar in psychology, that the less a person reflects deeply, the less mysterious life feels to them. What he meant is simple. When you speak without thought, you lose touch with what's really happening inside you. Silence, on the other hand, makes you look inward. It forces you to sit with your feelings instead of running from them with noise. And that quiet space, that moment of discomfort, that's where change begins. Silence doesn't mean you're distant or cold. It means you're intentional. It means you decide when and how to use your energy, because every time you explain yourself, defend your emotions, or complain about what you can't control, you're giving away your strength. You're handing out bits of your peace to people who may never understand your world. The Stoics refused to do that. They chose calm over chaos. They practiced holding back instead of reacting. They didn't waste their time arguing with people who only wanted to misunderstand them. They let their behavior speak for them. As Seneca once said, "It's not that life is too short, it's that we waste so much of it." Think about how much time and energy we waste trying to explain things that don't need explaining, saying things that didn't need to be said, or looking for approval that never made us stronger. Silence isn't about being mysterious or secretive. It's about guarding your focus. It's about not giving away your plans to people who haven't earned the right to know them, and it's about making your words matter so that when you do speak, people listen. Let's look deeper. Silence teaches emotional control. When you stop yourself from complaining or reacting right away, you're not hiding your feelings. You're learning to understand them. You're studying what you feel instead of being ruled by it. That's how you build real discipline, the kind that comes from the inside, not from applause or approval. Because once you train yourself this way, life can push you, pressure you, test you, and you'll stay calm. You won't feel the need to prove anything. You'll stay steady, clear, and impossible to shake. That kind of peace is rare power. But here's the thing, people won't always get it. Some will think you're cold or distant. Let them think that. That's part of the practice. When you stay quiet, people start guessing what's on your mind. They try to predict your next move, and that mystery gives you an edge. Not because you're trying to play games, but because stillness brings clarity, and confusion often ruins itself. The Stoics never shared everything, and neither should you. In a world full of noise, silence stands out, and that difference makes you noticeable. You've probably heard the saying, "Don't speak unless you can improve the silence." That's not just poetic, and it's Stoic wisdom in action. Before you open your mouth, ask yourself, is this needed? Is it helpful? Does it reflect who I want to be? If the answer is no, stay silent. Let your quiet be a filter. The fewer words you use, the more carefully you choose them. And when your words are rare, they become powerful. They stay in people's minds longer. Aristotle once said, "Wise people speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something." That's a hard truth in today's world, where talking too much is often mistaken for being smart. A Stoic doesn't need to broadcast their thoughts to prove they've had them. They don't need to share every detail of their life to feel real. They walk with awareness, speak with purpose, and protect their inner world. So how do you begin making silence your strength? Start with restraint. When you want to vent, pause. When someone offends or triggers you, pause. When you're unsure what to say, pause again. In those pauses, something powerful appears: control. And from control comes confidence, clarity, and peace. That's where reaction ends and wisdom begins. This isn't about staying silent forever. It's about knowing when silence is stronger than speech. It's about learning the weight of words, so when you do speak, it's with purpose. You talk because it matters, because it helps, because it aligns with your values. And when you live like that, your presence speaks louder than any noise, even when you say nothing at all. Law 8. Control the frame or be controlled by it. Sometimes life hits you with something that stops you cold. Maybe you get turned down. Maybe a plan you worked hard on completely falls apart. Maybe someone you trusted just walks away. And right away, your mind starts trying to make sense of it all. But here's the secret. How you explain it to yourself changes everything. Because your brain isn't only noticing what happened, it's also deciding what it means. And that meaning turns into the world you live in. The Stoics understood this clearly. They knew that pain, failure, and hard times will always come. But how much you suffer after that is up to you. The difference is between what happens and what story you tell yourself about it. Let's say you lose your job. One person might think, "I'm a failure, I'll never recover." Another person might think, "Maybe this is the push I needed. Maybe it's time to do something that truly matters to me." Same situation, totally different way of seeing it. And that difference, that frame, changes everything. Epictetus said, "People are not troubled by events, but by the opinions they hold about those events." He wasn't trying to make pain sound smaller. He was saying that the story you attach to a moment has more power than the moment itself. You've probably seen people who stay calm even when chaos hits. It's not because they don't feel hurt. It's because they've trained their minds to reframe quickly. When something goes wrong, they don't drown in self-pity. They take a breath, step back, and ask better questions. That's what Stoicism teaches, not to deny pain, but to choose a response that makes you stronger instead of weaker. So next time life hits you out of nowhere, try this. Instead of saying, "This isn't fair," ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," ask, "What part of me is being tested right now?" The moment you ask better questions, you start building a tougher mind. Carl Jung once said, "Everything depends on how we look at things, not what they are." That truth runs deep, because much of what we call reality is actually just our interpretation of it. We think we're seeing things clearly, but often we're looking through the lens of old fears, pain, or expectations. Your perception can be your prison or your power. If your inner voice keeps calling everything a failure or a personal attack, life will always feel heavy. But when you start saying, "This is a challenge," or "This is practice," or "This is part of my growth," you take back control. You start leading your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. And let's be honest, most people don't do this. Most people hand the pen over to fear or shame and let those emotions write their story. One thing goes wrong, and their whole sense of self falls apart. But not you, not anymore. You're here because you want control over your own mind. You're here to learn not just how to survive hard times, but how to lead yourself through them. It all starts the moment you notice your inner voice speaking and decide to give it a better story to tell. Let's make this simple. Imagine someone points out a flaw in your work. Your first thought might be, they don't respect me, or I'm not good enough. But pause. Take a step back. Change the frame. Think instead, this is feedback. I'm being refined, not rejected. Or say someone you care about suddenly stops talking to you. Your mind might rush to, I must be unlovable. Catch that thought. Flip it. Say, this says more about their confusion than my value. The situation doesn't change, but the way it feels does. You make it lighter by choosing a story that helps you grow instead of one that crushes you. Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's exactly what reframing is. It's remembering that no matter what happens around you, you're still in control of what happens inside you. Your thoughts, your meanings, your responses. You might not be able to control the world, but you can always control the way you see it. That's where your real freedom lives. And this isn't about pretending life is perfect or forcing yourself to smile through pain. It's about seeing clearly. Once you understand that your story decides your strength, you stop acting like a victim and start becoming the creator of your reality. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, how can I use this? That small change in thinking can completely shift the path of your life. Think about the last time something hit you hard. Don't just remember what happened. Remember what you told yourself afterward. That story shaped your feelings, your choices, and your next steps. So what if you chose a new story this time? What if you practiced it every day? You wake up and something irritates you. Say to yourself, this is my patience workout. Someone rejects you. This is teaching me to give myself worth. You fail at something. This is fuel to help me improve. The more you train your mind to think like this, the stronger it becomes. Your thoughts stop being a trap that drains you and start becoming a tool that builds you. Life will test you, that's certain. The real question is, will you let every challenge define who you are, or will you be the one who defines the challenge? Will you let the world shape your frame, or will you take control of the frame yourself, shaping it toward purpose, toward strength, and toward resilience? Law 9. Curate your circle. Character is contagious. You become like those you observe most. It's not poetry, it's neuroscience. The human brain is made of mirrors, neurons that imitate, absorb, and internalize patterns without asking permission. That's why environment is more powerful than intention. You can have the best philosophy, but if you live daily with confused, lazy, or cynical minds, your clarity becomes contaminated. As Seneca said, nothing is more dangerous than a crowd that has lost its sense of virtue. The truth is simple and hard. Character is contagious. The people around you are silently shaping what you consider normal, what you tolerate, what you ignore, what you call ordinary life. If you live among those who justify mediocrity, you will soon learn to justify your own. If you live among those who demand excellence of themselves, you will soon realize how much you were sleeping. The Stoics chose their circles like one chooses weapons before a war. Not for status, but for righteousness. Epictetus taught, if you want to progress, avoid bad company, for vices are more sticky than virtue. This isn't about elitism, but about moral hygiene. The mind is like a garden. It flourishes or rots, depending on who steps on it. Ask yourself, after talking to someone, do you leave stronger or more drained? More lucid or more confused? More serene or more agitated? These answers reveal who deserves space in your life. Some bring order, others bring chaos. And if you're not careful, other people's chaos will become your inner noise. Modern society glamorizes exposure and excessive connections, but the wise do the opposite, reduces to deepen. 3 types of relationships sustain the disciplined mind. Those who inspire. Those who force you to raise the bar without saying a word. Those who support, friends who confront you honestly when you stray from your path. Those who learn from you, not out of blind admiration, but because they recognize in you the same purpose they seek in themselves. Anything outside of that is a distraction. People who complain all the time, live by comparisons, speak ill of people they don't even know. All of this seems harmless, but it's corrosive. The mind absorbs the tone of the environment. You start by listening to others' victimization and end up justifying your own. That's why silence is sometimes better company than the wrong crowd. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by generals and sycophants, reminded himself every day, "Today I will meet ungrateful, envious, and arrogant people, but I will not let them make me the same." This is the essence of circle curation, knowing how to coexist without becoming contaminated, maintaining a stable character amidst the instability of others. But there's a deeper point. The circle you maintain is also a reflection of what you tolerate within yourself. Dishonest people live with internal dishonesty. Undisciplined people surround themselves with those who absolve them of guilt. The surroundings reveal the interior. Want to change your life? Change your relationships. Push away what pulls you back to what you were and bring closer what pushes you back to what you can be. This takes courage, the courage to say no. No to energy that disorganizes, no to pointless conversations, no to false loyalty that demands you shrink to fit in. Wisdom is not in being surrounded by many, but by few that are worth many. And when these few come together, when you share ideas, virtues, and principles with those also seeking clarity, the strength multiplies. It is in this kind of coexistence that true growth is born, silent, consistent, and morally elevated. Carl Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens." But I would add, he who chooses well with whom he walks, stay awake. In the end, the circle you build defines the limit of your mental strength. Surrounding yourself with weak minds is choosing to walk on quicksand. Surrounding yourself with firm minds is choosing to walk on solid rock. Healing the mind is often healing the environment, and healing the environment is, inevitably, heal who you become. Law 10. Rewrite the story you live under. Every single morning, whether you notice it or not, you wake up inside a story. Not a story controlled by luck or by what happens around you, but one written by your own thoughts. It's built from how you see yourself, what you believe about your worth, your limits, and your abilities. This story doesn't always speak loudly, but it's always there. Sometimes it quietly says, "I'm not enough." Other times it yells, "Bad things always happen to me." And without realizing it, we start believing those words. But they aren't facts. They're patterns, repeated thoughts that became habits over time, so familiar that they started to feel true. But here's the real truth. You can rewrite the story. And when you do, everything else begins to shift. The Stoics understood this better than most. They knew that your mind can either lift you up or tear you down, depending on what you allow it to repeat. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Think about that. If you keep feeding your mind fear, doubt, and limitation, those thoughts will color your whole life. You'll start to move like someone who's stuck, someone who can't change or grow. But if you begin changing your words, if you tell your mind a new story, you start living like someone who can. And that's where strength begins. Let's keep it simple. Your brain believes what it hears most often. And that includes what it hears from you. If you keep saying, "I'm not brave enough," or "I always fail," or "This is just who I am," then your mind will treat those sentences as instructions. It won't argue. It will obey. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." But here's the twist. What you do is shaped by what you believe. If your beliefs are built on weakness or doubt, then even your best efforts will feel like a fight against yourself. So ask yourself, where did your story begin? Who handed you the words you live by? Was it a teacher who said you'd never succeed? A parent who didn't believe in you? A friend who broke your trust? Or maybe it was failure, repeated so many times that you started thinking it defined who you are. But here's the thing, none of those people, none of those moments get to hold the pen anymore. Not unless you let them. You don't have to keep living under a story that was written from someone else's fear, doubt, or misunderstanding, or even from your own old pain. You can choose to rewrite it. And rewriting your story doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means choosing words that build strength instead of weakness. The Stoics never said to pretend fear doesn't exist. They just refused to let fear control the plot. Instead of saying, "I'm scared, so I'll run away," they said, "Fear means I'm doing something important." Instead of saying, "This isn't fair," they said, "This is my chance to practice patience, courage, and justice." That change in language isn't just something nice to say. It's real and useful. It moves you from being a victim of your story to being the one who writes it. It shifts you from helpless to powerful. And this isn't about pretending to be endlessly positive or fake. It's about becoming truthful. Because most of the harsh things you tell yourself aren't just unkind, they're wrong. You're not lazy. You're just unsure where to start. You're not weak. You're still learning how to handle things. You're not a failure. You're in the middle of figuring it out. Plato once said, "The beginning is the most important part of the work." And the beginning of every change starts with the story you tell yourself when no one else is there to listen. So how do you start rewriting it? Begin by noticing the words that automatically come out when you feel tired, scared, or stressed. Do you say things like, "I always ruin everything," or "I knew I'd mess it up," or "Of course this would happen to me"? Those aren't random thoughts. They're old scripts your mind keeps replaying, and if you keep saying them, your body, your tone, and your choices will all start to follow that script. Instead, begin replacing them. Not with fake smiles, but with strong truth. Don't say, "I'm anxious." Say, "I'm alert and getting ready." Don't say, "I'm not ready." Say, "I'm becoming the kind of person who can handle this." Don't say, "I always fail." Say, "I'm still learning and getting better every time." Seneca wrote, "We become brave by doing brave things." And that includes the bravery of rewriting the voice inside your head. You don't need approval from anyone to start doing that. You don't need to wait for a sign. Just begin living the new story. Because the more you repeat it, the more your mind will believe it. Your brain is always listening, so give it better words to hold on to. But remember, changing your story isn't something you do once. It's something you practice daily. Every time life tests you or reminds you of your old limits, you'll feel tempted to fall back into your old thinking. "See? I knew I couldn't do this." In that exact moment, don't argue. Just answer with your new truth. "I used to think that way, but not anymore." That's how real change happens. Not with force, but with steady repetition, patience, and faith in yourself. And slowly, your new story becomes your natural state. You begin to move like someone who trusts their own steps. You speak like someone who means what they say. You stop seeing failure as proof you're broken and start seeing it as a chance to grow sharper and wiser. Your story doesn't have to sound amazing or heroic. It just needs to be yours, honest, strong, and written with purpose. You are not what has happened to you. You are what you decide to do now. The words in your mind aren't carved in stone. They're written in chalk. And you hold the eraser. Use it. Not because your past was a mistake, but because your future deserves a better writer. The world will always try to shake you, through noise, fear, or confusion. But the ability to stay calm, to think clearly, to act with focus, that's already inside you. You don't have to control everything, you just have to guide what's within. And once you do that, nothing can steal your peace.